Hi guys, it's JT here and welcome to the JT Leadership Podcast, brought to you by PMG, a podcast where I take everyday leadership challenges, simplify them and provide you with the tools to overcome any challenge, all to create a positive outcome. Now, before I get into the episode, I want to tell you a little bit about why I believe you should listen to this episode today. Why you should take out the few minutes out of your day, whether you're on a train, whether you're listening in a car, whether you're going for a run, and tell you why you should listen to this podcast today. And there is one simple reason. This podcast gives you something. It gives you a tool to learn and develop and grow. And there is something that I've learned fairly within the last few years. And it's, if we don't change something, we do the same thing again and again and again, no matter the time frame, it could be 2 months, 3 years, 10 years, the outcome will be the same. We will be in the same position, doing the same things, feeling the same way. But if we just take one learning, one tool from someone else's experience, learn from anything, whether it be a YouTube video, a book, or this podcast, you can then take that, implement it into your lives, and you will grow and have a positive impact on your life. And by doing something different, you grow. You take yourself to the next level. And by doing that again and again, you will become the better version of yourself day after day. And that is what I aim to do with this podcast, is to give you the tools, give you the information to become a better leader, a leader that can make an impact. So without further ado, let's get into Season 1, Episode 3. The power of communication. In episode 2, I introduced the 3 core areas of a leader and covered core area number 1. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 2, I do suggest you go back and listen to episode 2 first and then listen to episode 3. In episode 1 and 2, I briefly discussed that the difference between a manager and a leader is behaviors. So in episode 3, I'm going to explore the following 3 questions. Question number 1. Why behaviors? Question number 2. Why is communication a right behavior and how can it benefit you? And then question 3. How to communicate effectively now. Herb Kelleher, the co-founder and the CEO of Southwest Airlines, as well as a great leader who revolutionized the business, said that he doesn't hire for skills, he hires for attitude. And because you can always teach skills. So what exactly is attitude? Well, attitude is derived from our behaviors. So for example, as a leader, when I'm looking to hire for people within my team, I'm not so focused on what they can actually do. If they come to the interview and say, I can use an Excel spreadsheet, that's fantastic. A lot of people can use an Excel spreadsheet. But what I'm really focused on, what I'm really concerned about is, who are they? What are their values? How do they behave in a certain situation? If they were put under pressure, how would they react? If they failed at something, if something went wrong, how do they react? How do they behave in that situation? If someone they're dealing with wasn't being very friendly and they've been quite aggressive, how do they deal with that situation? Asking these questions and understanding how they would deal with the situation allows me to understand who they are as a person and also how they behave in that situation and whether or not they'll be right for my team and the project. And that's what I mean about behaviors. And as a leader, you need to display the right behaviors in order to be able to lead people in the right direction, to influence them. And if we exhibit the right behaviors, we can increase our ability to influence another person. Tony Robbins, in a motivational Q&A session with Inc.com, explained that leadership is a person's ability to influence others. Therefore, if we can detach what we do from the skills and focus on how we behave, we can increase our influence over another person. And that is what this series is about. So what I'm going to get into now is, what is the first right behavior? And that is communication. And this episode is all about the power of communication and the benefits it can bring you. James C. Humes, a leadership writer, said that the art of communication is the language of a leader. And I believe that communication is the starting point for all people. Not just leaders, but every single one of us. Every single interaction we have, every single conversation, look, expression, gesture, all has an outcome. Even the internal conversations we have with ourselves, everything has an outcome. For example, if I'm going to go and speak to my team, and I walk into the office, and the first thing they see me, and they look at someone who's got a very stern face, very serious look, automatically they are thinking he wants to talk about work. Something's gone wrong, something serious. Well, okay, how do I react in this situation? The defenses go up. Is he gonna blame me for something? Not saying that I do that, but this is what people automatically start to think. They start to go into fight or flight mode. They start to look at protection. They think, okay, I need to protect myself here. Whereas if I walked into the office with a smile on my face, and this has happened, by the way, I've experimented with both situations, so stern face and smiling. If I go in with a smile on my face, the immediate reaction is someone smiles back. And the barriers are lowered, the defenses are lowered, and I can have an open conversation with someone, understand how they're doing, and then go on to understand where we are with a project or a task, are there any blockers, that kind of thing. And that all starts from something very simple as a smile. And that is why just simple communication tools are so powerful. So just why is it so important? Well, my experiences, and this is over a series of 10 years, as well as learning from other people, going to seminars, listening to workshops online, webinars, reading books, bad communications, in particularly in leadership, leads to projects without direction. This could be not just in a work project, within your life. If you're trying to do something for yourself and you haven't communicated it to yourself effectively, you're going to lack direction. It leads to a lack of motivation, a turnover in staff, a bad environment and culture. It leads to microcultures, reduced results, less money. There's so many impacts, negative consequences of bad communication. And this is where we can step up our levels as leaders. If we decide to focus on communication, we can seriously make a difference. We can turn those negative consequences into positives. We can create good, open conversations. We can get to know people better. We can connect. We can create cultures of adaptability, direction, increase results, increase success. We can do that all through the art of communication. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to share with you 2 tools on how you can become a better communicator. So the first tool, and this isn't mine, I learned this from Simon Sinek from reading his book, Start With Why. So this is Simon Sinek's The Golden Circle, and he explains it using Apple, so the phone company, as an example against their competitors. So Apple have built a culture, not just a brand. People queue up for weeks, like a whole week, just to buy a phone. But what he explains is that they are not buying a phone, they're buying an identity. And you look at that compared to another competitor, for example, like Sony, where you buy a product. And you're looking and thinking, what's the difference? So he looked at the marketing strategies and how they actually sell and market themselves. And Apple, compared to other people, have built this identity and this culture because they started with why. Whereas other companies tell you what they do, Apple told everyone why they do it, how they do it, and then what they do. So it's such a powerful and important tool. And the same goes for communication in daily business and daily activities. If you just tell someone what to do, okay, they might do it, but they won't do it very well. If you give someone a reason, so you tell them why they're doing something, then tell them how you feel they should go about it, or discuss it with them. Get the how from them. They will then establish on their own what they need to do to make that goal a reality. So use, for example, in projects, every single day, I will tell someone essentially the outcome, what we need to do. But I don't just say to them, we need to do X. I say to them, we need to do X because of this. This is the reason. This is the driver behind this. Then I look at and I have an open conversation with them. I can say, how do you feel like we could achieve this? Get some ideas. It's open dialogue and communication. And then I let them understand themselves what they need to do. That is so powerful because it gives them a reason behind what they're doing. They can actually get behind and believe that they're making a difference. That is one tool which is very, very powerful. When communicating, always start with why. Don't just tell someone what to do. Start with why they're doing what they're doing, why you're doing what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and then what you need to do. And very important, don't forget to explain timeframes and set expectations for the outcomes. Otherwise, tasks will just drag on. That goes for yourself personally or for your team. Okay, so now I want to move on to the second tool. And this is what I call the face-to-face model. This is a model for communications for any tasks. So for example, with your team, if you need someone to do something, you can utilize tool 1 with how you communicate that. But the face-to-face model is essentially how do you go about the whole process. So I start with the face-to-face model. There are 4 steps to this. The first step is face-to-face communication. The second step is engagement. The third step is confirmation. And the fourth step is checking in. And this is a cycle and a process that can go around, interchangeable. You can bring in any step at any stage. It's a brilliant cycle, and I use it, and I've used it for over 10 years, and it really works. It works very, very well. And it's a tool which I believe that you can use, and it can make an impact in your life, in particular if you're running a project and you're running teams. So let's use the example of you as a project leader and you're running a team. Step 1, the face-to-face communication. I really insist this. Always try to start the communication in person. If you're in an open plan office, don't just send someone an email. Have you experienced that, by the way, when you're sitting next to someone and they email you and you're just looking at them like, why? Just come and talk to me. So always start with a face-to-face communication. This could be whether you're doing it one-to-one or you're briefing out to a large audience. If in certain circumstances you are remote working, face-to-face communications are not always practical. Maybe some of your team members are in a different country or quite far away. So maybe a phone call or a video call. At least there's human interaction. You can feel and sense the emotions and what's going on there. Okay, are they understanding this? Which brings us on to the second step, engagement. This is that ensuring the communication is two-way, not just by speaking the whole time. Take the time to listen. Listen to what they're saying. Ask them questions. Here's an important step to this, and you might want to take a note of this, take a mental log. Don't be afraid to not know all the answers. If you don't know, a phrase that you can use, and I use this a lot, is say, I don't know right now, but I will take a note and I will go and find out. Being open and honest and authentic will improve the connection and the communication between you both. This way you're also giving them accountability and responsibility to go find out themselves. So sometimes I've used this and I've said to them, well, you know what, I'm not actually sure, but you know what, go and speak to X and they might know the answer. You're giving them the empowerment to go and deal with the task themselves, not just rely on you to give them all the answers. And in today's world, everything needs to be formalized. In particularly, if you're running a project and things goes wrong, you need tracking and references. That's why step 3 is confirmation. And this is formal confirmation. This is the email, the follow-up email to confirm what you've discussed, giving the deadlines, giving the targets, a bulletin to a team, a memo, or an infographic, or briefing slides. A key point here, this communication needs to be as clear as step 1. You need to discuss the why, the how, and the what, all within this formal communication, but keep it short and sweet. Don't drag on and drone on for pages and pages, 1 or 2 lines, that's it. And then the fourth and final step, this is checking in. Now, very important, take a note of this. This is not micromanagement. There's a difference between micromanagement and checking in. This is understanding that people will not always understand it fully first time or every time. So what you need to do is just check up on them. How are you getting on with that task? Great. Are there any questions? No? Brilliant. Are you still on track for the target? Fantastic. Come and see me. If you've got any questions, drop me a message. I can point you in the right direction. Again, giving them the empowerment, giving them the accountability, because people form their own opinions, expectations, and have their own way of doing things. So follow up by monitoring progress, but do not stand over their shoulder and say, okay, what are you doing now? No, that's not right. That's micromanagement. So use questions like, how are you getting on? Are there any questions regarding the topic? These are things that can help you check in. And remember what I said at the beginning, any part of these tools are interchangeable. So when you check in, if they actually have a question, bring in the engagement. Have an open dialogue with them. Get to understand, are there any blockers? Is there a simple blocker that you could remove as a leader, making their life easier? Then, or if there's a change to the task, there could be a change to the project. It happens. I know in my industry, things change all the time. That's where you can bring in the formal communication again, face-to-face communication. Maybe you need to take this and brief it out to someone else. Maybe you need to take this task and give it to someone else because it's now moved on to a different area, and the model starts again. That's why I believe this model is so powerful, and it's a tool and technique that you can use right now. So remember the 4 steps: face-to-face communication, engagement, confirmation, and then checking in. Wow, there's a lot of value there and a lot of tools. So I want to just recap quickly what we've discussed. Okay, so question 1. The difference between a manager and a leader. Why is it behaviors? So we've tackled this, we've looked at this, and we've answered it. The difference between a manager and a leader is behaviors, because this is what we do. Behaviors dictate what we do. It's our attitudes, and behaviors dictate the impact that we can have on other people and the world. Question 2. The power of communication. Why is it so great? What benefits does it bring us? So we've answered that. The first behavior is communication, and it is one of the most important because it's the one thing that links us all. It's how we socialize, it's how we talk to other people. It's communicating. This is in marketing, relationships, influencing, leading, everything. Even a simple conversation about the weather is an interaction that is communication. And then the final question: how to communicate effectively now. So we've covered 2 tools. So we've looked at why, we've looked at how we can do this and the benefits it brings you, and now we looked at what you need to do. So the 2 tools. So tool number 1, Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, and I recommend you read that book or watch his videos about starting with why. And then tool number 2, this is my tool. This is the face-to-face model. Communication, which is 4 steps: face-to-face, engagement, confirmation, and then checking in. And these are 2 tools that you can start implementing right now to make a difference. And remember, as a leader, it is your responsibility to be the voice. You are the voice of your team and the people that you can influence. So go out there, empower yourself, empower them, and make a difference. Wow, okay, so that brings us to the end of episode 3 of the JT Leadership Podcast. The power of communication. I feel privileged that you've given your time to listen to this podcast, and I hope that the tools I've shared with you bring you value and make a difference in your life so that you can go on to impact other people's lives. I look forward to speaking to you soon in episode 4, The Power of Sovereignty. Thank you very much for listening. This is JT signing out. JT signing out.